I think it was just about a year ago that we saw the video. Has it been 2 years?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
2 years. 2 years ago that a video came on the scene of a young man named Ben that most people had never heard of that had a heart condition. And he had died briefly, and they resuscitated him. What his family didn't know is that after that experience, he went in and cut a video with cards. And I know if you saw it, you would remember it. And he was just this, you could see the joy in him, and you could see the truth in him and what he had seen. And he explained what his condition was through these cards, and then explained how he died and what he saw afterward. It was such an amazing video. We had the Breedlove family on with us, and then Tanya and I took the family to dinner, and we just got to know them. And they are remarkable people. Remarkable people. Ben's sister, Allie, joins us now. She has written a book, When Will the Heaven Begin? And it is an important story, especially for anybody who has lost hope in anything, and you're struggling to hold on. This will restore your confidence in God and put your feet back on a good path. Allie, so good to see you again.
So good to see you.
Has it really been 2 years? Almost?
On Christmas Day of 2011. I mean,
my gosh,
that's when it happened.
Time flies.
Mm-hmm.
When we had dinner that night, you guys were talking about writing a book, and we warned you about all of the nasty things that people will do and try to take your story and how important it was. And you guys were so guarded and so protective of your brother's memory and the story, and you have done a great job with it. Now it has been out. You found out yesterday. It's on the New York Times bestseller list. Tell me what the message of the book is.
Well, Ben went through a lot of suffering in his life, but he lived every day with peace and hope and joy. And despite what he went through, he knew that the peace of God was available to him. He knew that there was the hope of heaven, and he knew that he was here for a purpose, and that we need to live our lives with purpose and with joy every day.
Tell me about your experience with him, if I remember right, on the dock.
Well, Ben had experienced his cardiac arrest on December 6th, during which his heart stopped beating for 3 full minutes. And during that time, he awoke in what he described as the waiting room of heaven, where he felt more confident than he had ever felt in his entire life and proud of everything he had done. And you think, how can someone possibly be proud of everything they've done with all the mistakes that humans make? And we have to believe that in that moment, Ben saw himself as God sees him. And when he woke up, he was disappointed because he really believed that he was going to heaven. And at this point, he was really struggling with that, being back, and why he couldn't have just left and gone on and left the suffering of this world. And he had a very intimate conversation with me, one of the only serious conversations I've ever had with my brother, because he was such a jokester, where he described this vision in detail to me. And at one point I asked him if he was happy that he had woken up. And he said, I guess. And then he started crying really hard. And I just had to remind him that if he was back for a reason. And eventually he said, I think you're right. And I think God let me have that vision so I wouldn't be afraid of dying, and so I would know that heaven is worth it.
Explain the vision that he had.
He awoke in what he described as a white room with no walls that went on forever. And in front of him was a full-length mirror. And when he looked into it, he said he was looking at himself, but he wasn't just looking at himself. He was looking at his entire life. And he said that he watched his entire 18 years, every second of it, play back in front of him in real time somehow, and yet it only took a few moments. And the funny thing is, he said standing behind him with his hand on his shoulder was his favorite rap artist, Kid Cudi. And he even said, I have no idea why he was there, but, we talked about it and think maybe that's just God's incredible way of relating to a teenage kid.
I think I've shared this story a few times that when I first moved to Texas, we didn't know what we were going to do here. We didn't know what we were going to build or anything else, and we still are kind of in that. And I went with Pat and a couple of other of my good friends and counselors, and we were just walking different places of land, and I come over this hill, and I say to the real estate guy, I'm going to go just walk the land for a minute. I had no idea what I was doing. And I come over this hill, and I look behind me to make sure nobody's watching me, and I start talking to God, and I'm like, why am I here? What am I looking for? Help me out. And he started downloading stuff about Walt Disney, troubles that Walt Disney had. And my first reaction was, you want me to build an amusement park? How stupid is that? And then it came across to me that, no, dummy, I'm speaking a language you understand. I know you know who Walt Disney is. I know you know that story backward and forward. So I am telling you these things so you will see the point of what I'm trying to do. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's probably why the rapper was there. Either that or we really have heaven wrong.
I definitely agree. And in the vision at the end, he heard lyrics that were very meaningful to him from this rapper. And the lyrics were, when does the fantasy end? When does the heaven begin? And Ben liked to think of a time when we would all be at peace and no longer have to deal with the suffering of this world.
Tell me, and that's when the rapper said,
yeah.
Was it go now or go home?
Yeah, he said go now, and Ben really thought he was going to heaven.
And that's when he woke up. Mm-hmm. He shared that with you, didn't share that with the rest of the family?
He shared it briefly with my family, but he was a little bit embarrassed of it, and these experiences were very personal to him. He didn't talk about it with his friends, but the conversation that I had with him was more in depth and more detailed than anything he had told to anyone else.
And when you found the videotape, how'd that come about? When you found the YouTube video of him?
After we had that conversation on the dock, he created the video the next weekend, unbeknownst to my family or anyone else. And 7 days later, on Christmas Day, is when Ben passed away, and I saw it for the first time that night after we got home from the hospital.
Your family has been, you're just remarkable people. And Tanya and I were so impressed with you guys. First, how much of a role did religion play in your life? Faith and or religion?
Well, I don't really like to describe myself as religious. Both my parents were Christians at the time that Ben and I were little kids, and told us their beliefs, but told us that we had to develop our own opinions and think logically through things and gather our own information. And Ben and I both eventually committed our lives to Christ as well. But I really respect my parents for telling us that, because it gave us the opportunity to grow into our own sound beliefs. And we both believe in God and heaven and angels. And Ben believes that's where his peace came from. I
think last question. How Mom and Dad doing?
They, like the rest of us, miss Ben extremely every day. And we think about him every day. And there are always tears. But we have been blessed with so much joy and so much support and peace throughout this whole journey. And seeing such an amazing story come to light and change lives throughout the world.
It has, too. There's people that are writing you guys, telling you how it changed lives. You were coming here, you were in the airport, and you sat down coincidentally, some would say. Tell the story, can you?
When I gave the book away?
Yeah.
I was in the lobby of my hotel.
Oh, lobby of the hotel.
And a man asked me, you know, what I was there for, and I told him about the book. And coincidentally, I don't believe in coincidences.
I don't either.
But he had a form of cardiomyopathy. And,
which is what your brother had.
Yes. And I told him how Ben still lived every day with joy. And he looked at me and said, does the joy last? Because I don't think it has for me. And so I handed him a copy of the book, and it is my deepest desire that this story will bring peace and hope to people's lives.
I think it will. I can't encourage you enough to read this story and pass it on to a friend. It will lift you up, and I believe that it was a story given to Ben. You may say it was given to Ben, and maybe it was given to Ben for Ben, but I believe at this time for a reason. Mm-hmm. And you who were listening, you may be the reason it was given. Pick this book up, When Will the Heaven Begin, by Allie Breedlove. Available in bookstores and online everywhere. Thanks, Allie.
Thank you so much.
You bet.